Hi everyone, it's me again, and today we are living our fall fantasy with this bronze orange vibe. Rings, Simon's, H&M, Natasha Denona bronze, and this is the e.l.f. Slip Shine lipstick in like orange, if anyone was wondering. Just want to remind y'all to, if you wish to like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be really fun. And suggest new video topics down below if you so desire. I also wanted to mention that Fast Jack made a Shane Dawson video about his return. I will not be commenting on the return. I don't want to watch the video. So watch that because it's fun and I love that. Topics for today's video. I want to get through this intro pretty quickly today. I've already addressed everything I feel like I need to address for the time being anyways. So topics in this video, we're going to talk about Zoe Laverne today and everything that's been going on recently because she's been getting on my nerves. Zoe Laverne is a type of escapable problematic that I just really don't jive with and makes me very frustrated. We're going to talk about that today because I feel like that there's really not enough reporting on what she's been doing, even past any issues with the minor that were present last year that we'll get into. That we'll summarize it pretty quickly. So my 4 topics for today, well, 3 topics in my conclusion, are the iNabber situation with Zoe Laverne and his coverage of her, a situation with minors and how she utilizes them to her advantage and how TikTokers seem to be able to escape this. There is more than the initial situation with the 13-year-old boy. We'll get into kind of what happened there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the family channel pipeline in regards to what she has recently done involving selling pictures of her child. And then, of course, my conclusion. We're getting into iNabber. iNabber is a commentary channel. It's been around for quite some time. I believe I subscribed to him in 2018 when he was definitely under 100,000 subscribers. I just don't remember exactly how many. I've enjoyed his videos for a really, really long time. So this guy, this British lad, is a champion of accountability regarding Zoe Laverne. He is very set on that there is no reason that she should be platformed, no reason that she should not be in jail for what she has done, which is justifiable in my opinion. And he is someone who's insisting that we do not forget about what happened with her because she seems to be able to just steer clear of any drama and have no interacting with it, even though this isn't drama at all and this stuff is incredibly serious.
Next. So basically this is a clip of Zoe Laverne and her good old mother pretty much crying for sympathy. Sympathy for what, you may ask? Sympathy for Zoe Laverne being caught having relations with a 13-year-old boy.
He's done about at least 3 videos on her by now, including the one on his iNabber live channel, which we will talk a lot about today. In his second video, so his first video on Zoe Laverne is talking about the situation with the minor, which we'll get into more in my next section of this video. And his second one is addressing the pictures of her baby that she was selling, she was attempting to sell for $15 to cover the medical fees and donate them to other people allegedly, despite the fact that there is no evidence, no connotation, no relation, and no idea that this was the gauge for what she wanted to do initially regardless. So take with that what you may, I suppose. Because Zoe Laverne talks about, iNabber points this out as well, that she said, oh, well, I know what it's like to have a difficult pregnancy or a difficult birth, and I want to give the money to everybody, and that's all I was doing. All she said when trying to sell the photos was, oh, I love you, love you guys, feel free to support us, and it was like the $15 fee or whatever.
Zoe after she went on Instagram and said, hey guys, I just gave birth to a newborn, and if you want to pay $15 for a photo of me and them, you're more than welcome to. That's definitely not really weird, Zoe. It's definitely not weird that the first thing you did as soon as your child was born was say, hey, how can I monetize this one day old child? There's such a clear indication that you have the worst case of brain.
Zoe Laverne is wealthy and is in a career that makes a lot of money. To kind of try to angle herself, it gave me Shane Dawson a little bit of like, well, I need to pay the hospital bill, which I understand the hospital bills apparently in the United States are incredibly expensive. I want to acknowledge that I'm Canadian. So perhaps how I'm approaching this is a little bit extra pessimistic because like if I gave birth, it's free. For her to make these assumptions that people are just going to be willing to donate and understand the attention immediately, even though there is no indication that this is for any sort of donation at all. And with her previous actions of being really selfish and exaggerating a lot of things, it really doesn't make sense that would be the initial implication because she has not really come across as a philanthropic person. Like, I'm not sitting here being like, the charitable donator is Zoe Laverne. You know what I'm saying? Like, Zoe Laverne does not have that energy of somebody who is working for other people. On the contrary, I'd argue she seems incredibly selfish, especially how she deflects and blames other people for anything bad that's ever happened to her. It's not the fact that she's done a bad thing, it's that she's been exposed for a bad thing. It is the fault of the people that bring it up, rather than the person who did the action in the first place.
I just wanted to come on live and tell y'all the truth and tell y'all that, like, a lot of people are making this out to be something that it's not and making it to be worse than it seems by calling me a groomer and a pedophile and everything. So I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know that I didn't groom Connor, not, like, wouldn't do that.
That's like a murderer being like, it's the fault of the person who called the cops. It's such a bizarre way of thinking. iNabber has a Death Noodles video kind of put into his video as well, and he's showing like the structure of the selling of the photos, which was arguably like kind of a similar format to like an OnlyFans, not in the sense of any sexual content whatsoever, but meant like the idea of selling the photos and the structure of selling the photos. And I just think that it's such a weird kind of newfound way of thinking for a lot of these influencers, particularly these ones that don't really bring much to the table, is that they have to monetize every aspect of their life and can monetize every aspect of their life. This is giving me big pyramid scheme energy, MLM energy, of like, I have to literally sell anything that can give me any sort of good grace in people's eyes. I have to like make money off of it. So then iNabber gets into a DM that he received. This is on his iNabber live channel. It's the thumbnails over here. And he's talking about how he got a comment on his Instagram post by the Zoe Laverne's account, like the verified Instagram account, and it just said check DM. That was it. It just said check DM. So it was from Zoe Laverne, like verified account, the whole nine.
That's where it gets interesting. Technically, it wasn't Zoe, but it was on Zoe's 2.7 million follower Instagram account.
So then he looks in his DMs, and it says, "Hi, a friend of Zoe Laverne's is in your video. She's underage. Can you please get rid of the clips?" And then he immediately responds, like the good person that he is, with, by the way, Stan iNabber for clear skin. So he says like, well, yeah, of course, like, where is it? We can blur it. And then she's like, yeah, okay, so my name is Kira. I manage Zoe Laverne's account. I'm 15 years old, and I'm just an editor, and I'm in one of the videos that, like, just the TikTok compilation. It was a tiny TikTok compilation that he put in. She was in it. So he blurred her face naturally in the version of the video that's out now.
In one of these TikToks, there was, I believe, a friend of Zoe Laverne, and it turned out the friend didn't want to be in the video because she was underage. Now, we didn't go and find this person's TikTok. I believe it was just on Zoe Laverne's TikTok.
But his first question was kind of like, why are you a 15-year-old managing the account? She says that she's friends with Zoe Laverne. Now, I'm 21. I don't have any friends that are 16. Because if she's 20, yeah, so 5 years. Why are you friends with 10th graders? I tutor 10th graders for my job. You have to think about what mental state you have to be in and how you live your life and how you manage yourself. That someone who is foreseeing a pretty crucial part of your existence online and your career, if that person is 50, makes you wonder where her head is set. You know, it makes me wonder what type of person she is in real life, if these are the people that are in charge of things. And even if she's just an editor and maybe she checks the account, having a minor work for you with such a huge age difference, given your reputation, what sense does that make? Like, I feel like if I got into a huge scandal about grooming, I would cleanse my repertoire, like my, you know, roster, if you will, of people around me, of anyone that can cause a scandal. Or even if I wanted to like remain friends with them, I definitely wouldn't have them in like these like executive positions. I wouldn't have them DMing other influencers and other public figures. Why didn't Zoe Laverne do it? Why didn't Zoe Laverne stick up for this person anyways? What, Zoe Laverne didn't want to admit that she watched the video, perhaps? I don't, like, it makes literally no sense. Like, this is like another example of like, Zoe Laverne likes to have a power imbalance over minors. I think it's because, honestly, how immature she is and how irrational she is, you know, overall unpleasant that she is, she would not be able to exercise power over anyone her age. I know for a fact that if Zoe Laverne's like standing in front of me and screaming in my face, that I would not take shit from her, period. Like, I could not take this girl seriously. So she's not quite a year younger than me. You know, by your 20s, whatever, blah, 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 you're the same age. You know what I mean? Like I said, I guess I assume a little bit of a part of it is like you can't shoot for your, it's like Keemstar, right? You have to question why he's 40 and dating 20-year-olds. I think it's because that's just where his head is set. And I think Zoe Laverne's in the same kind of mindset of just being stuck at being a teenager. Kind of that same Keemstar, I'm 15 forever ideology. I'm also using clips from iNabber's videos because I just want to give him views. And also they're well edited and concise. And I don't want to watch a bunch of Zoe Laverne TikToks because I'll get triggered and frustrated with the existence of these videos, because I just, like, how she carries herself is so infuriating to me, because she can't acknowledge a single thing. Like, I haven't seen even Jeffree Star can acknowledge more stuff than Zoe Laverne. Like, I have not seen anybody dodge stuff like this. I think the only person, I'll go into that comparison later, is like Austin McBroom. So if we go into like Zoe Laverne and minors in general, I'm going to very quickly summarize the pre-existing situation with the 13-year-old. There are dozens of videos about this. iNabber has videos. Jay Aubrey's videos, very, very good about this. His is like, what is it, like over an hour long, I think, if I recall. It has 2 million views, so I'm sure, so, you know, if you're watching this tiny channel that you would have seen them. But, so what had happened essentially was, Zoe Laverne knew somebody. I assumed that there was some sort of issues in the relationship. I can't remember if it was that boyfriend that she had. That's not, like, the logistics of that whole part are not really relevant. So someone had leaked DMs with the 13-year-old. Talking about their kind of like relationship type thing. And then Zoe Laverne lied. She's like, those aren't real. Meh, meh. That didn't happen. 13-year-old, don't know him. I'm responsible and date adults because I'm an adult. I don't date kids because I'm an adult. And then whoever leaked them was like, well then, liar, liar, pants on fire. Allow me to show everybody that you're full of shit. And then floods the internet with the video of them kissing, which is absolutely insane. Also, if you hear whistling, there's a gym class going outside. I live kind of close to a high school. A lot of sounds. Video comes out of her kissing the guy. Then there's a whole bunch of live streams and videos talking about it and stuff. Zoe Laverne's primary excuse was, we were in a dark place. I was in a dark place. I'm gonna insert a little clip from like one of my very first Rhetoric video where I compiled how many times Jeffree Star says a dark place. It's a different level. So he has, for repetition, repeats the term behind the scenes, 236. I was in a dark place. By repeating behind the scenes and I was in a dark place over and over and over again in this video, like nothing you've ever seen.
There was a lot happening behind the scenes. I was in a very dark place. Behind the scenes, I was in a dark place yesterday. Because behind the scenes, this isn't funny. And that's that behind the scenes, there were people in my head regurgitate and bring me into a dark place.
Yeah, so this gives me the same energy, which is funny because I just compared her to Jeffree Star. When people say I'm in a dark place, I can't help but laugh at this point because it's such a pathetic excuse that really means nothing. What's a dark place? Like, dating a kid and justifying dating a kid and saying that the child consents is a little more than like I'm having a hard time. You know, grooming and being a predator, I think it's a little deeper than that. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a mental health professional, but I think there's a little bit more that needs to be opened up here, okay? Because here's the thing, rhetoric isn't everything. And this is when her rhetoric really comes through, because this is when she has to justify illegal and harmful and horrifying behavior. So you need to think about everything as a rhetoric. Not everything is a rhetoric, everything is rhetoric. Even things like tonality, analogies, satire, sarcasm, all of these like different projections of voice, different ways of portraying, these are all stating the argument in some extent. My videos have a thesis. My videos are structured like essays, which is why I usually have my introduction where I talk to you guys about something really quick, address what's coming on in the video. Then I have 3 parts and then I have a conclusion. I really structure these like kind of like high school essays. My thesis is typically like, what is wrong with this? Or what is the issue with this? Or what is good about this? So in the case of this video is like, what's the issue with Zoe Laverne? Like, what's going on with her right now? I'm citing a different book today. I'm citing the Rhetoric manual. I think it's Essentials to Rhetoric. I'll put a picture here of what it is because I left it downstairs. And I don't feel like getting up. So the Rhetoric manual describes modern identity of rhetoric, because now a lot of the books that I was reading before were from the 90s. So a lot of like, they didn't have like social media, so they would talk about like TV media and radio, but it's not super applicable here. This book is from, I think it's from 2014, the print that I have. So the Rhetoric manual says this: your identity is a set of labels, patterns of behavior, and ways of representing yourself that make up a public persona. Political power and social status are linked to the identity categories with which you affiliate, not just in terms of institutional representation, whether there are people who think, sound, and look like you in a political office, but also in terms of how you move through the social world and are treated by others. So this is talking about that you build your persona, and with that built persona is how you proceed through your acts of life and how people are going to react to you. So this is what I was saying before about the selling baby pictures thing, right? Is given that Zoe Laverne spent months justifying grooming a child, then we're going to suggest that she would not be ideally a philanthropic person. I don't think she would be donating to charity and trying to help other people if she is so selfish to blame a child for her own selfish and egregious actions.
Ever without consent. Connor and I both consented to kissing. That was how it went. We both liked each other, and then we realized that the ages were too different. And we're both just kind of hurting. We're trying to like laugh off the situation because we both realized back then that it was just like not right and that the ages weren't appropriate. So we stopped. And
your set of labels, patterns of behavior, and ways of representing yourself make up a public persona. Okay, that's like the key here. And then then when I read the other part, that's kind of just developing like who you're with too is kind of a component of that. And with that group of people you associate yourself with is how you move through the social world. So with that, we're going to get into TikTokers. Because TikTokers seem to be able to get away with these things pretty easily. Like Tony Lopez and his brother, whatever the hell his name is. And that whole disgusting group of people that have had issues. James Charles does a lot of like TikTok stuff, and has that more kind of similar audience. He hangs out with all of them. He's gotten away with such allegations. And these people have power imbalances. What's unique to Zoe Laverne, and she's one of the only girls that we've seen in this kind of set of circumstances. And before all the male commentary channels come in and give me shit for saying that I can acknowledge a power imbalance with a girl, I never said that there weren't any. I'm saying that the ones with men are different. Because the one with men have systemic setups through all of history that come into play here, right? How marriage is built, how women were kept in the household, the difficulty for divorce, difficulty with childcare, etc., etc., etc. In the case of Zoe Laverne, this is a girl. Because I don't even want to call her, well, I gotta call her a woman because she dated a minor, but like, we gotta keep that separation kind of there, but Zoe Laverne's a woman, apparently, that plays from her power imbalance. Because she has this social media platform, these huge following, millions and millions and millions of people. I would gather, based on her TikToks and how she presents herself, it's pretty substantial wealth. Even though with the medical bills thing, the thing is, like, I don't want to make too many assumptions on the medical bills, because apparently the United States could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a baby. Please don't come for me. I have no idea how medical bills work. When you look it up, it's always different values. Because it depends. I don't really know what the treatment was. Like, she touched on it very briefly. So she was utilizing her power imbalance against the 13-year-old first, saying that he consented to the actions that took place. There's a reason why there is an age of consent. There's a reason why there's a bracket in which this becomes appropriate, because the capacity for this child to evaluate these imbalances is not good enough yet. It's the same way that arguably with Keemstar, the 20-year-old girl is still pretty young to be dealing with such substantial difference. Even though I would argue Zoe Laverne at 20 years old can evaluate these things in her circumstance, there can be multiple different iterations of this playthrough. There can be a power imbalance between a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old, and there can definitely be one between a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old. Okay, it's not like power imbalances don't have to fit this hyper-specific definition, and Zoe Laverne is a version of this. So when you're talking about how a child consented, do tell me this. Is that just going to be a new excuse that work in court? You know, I as an adult dated this child and they consented, so it's fine. Age of consent, 18 in America, I think, for most states, if not lowest 16. Canada, it is 16 most of the time, and if there's an element of power and authority, it goes to 18. She has this power imbalance over him at first, apparently in a friendship. Then she says friends fall in love.
He's a kid, and I'm aware of that, and it just happened. We both were in a dark place when we first, like, became friends, and we both just ended up catching feelings for each other. And friends do that. They catch feelings for each other. That's not a bad thing. Yes, the age is a bad thing. Yes, it's wrong. Yes, it's not.
Here I can guarantee you, I do not have any 13-year-old friends. I do not see anything interesting about 13-year-olds on a level of a friendship. I'll be, you know, decent. I have a couple cousins and whatever that are that age, but I'm not about to be friending into these deep, complex relationships with 8th graders. I won't even tutor 8th graders. I tutor high school. What are you doing? What about this child is appealing to you? Because there shouldn't be that many similarities in thought process and career, in place in life, complexity and moral views when you're 19 versus 13 years old. So what's appealing? I think the power that she had over that child. I do. Because this way, she can have someone in her place, like with her, that adores her and looks up to her and idolizes her, essentially with no questions asked. Because he's not interacting with people in that age as much, I would argue, hopefully. When you're not interacting with normal 20-year-olds, and that's not like your group of friends and the people that you are with, then you're not going to perceive them in the same way. And this comes down to the 15-year-old editor as well. I think Zoe Laverne has such this disdain for criticism and such this disdain for critique that she would rather have complete utter power over people, even if she can't really develop herself as a person, than she would actually be able to control. Like, she values controlling them much more. She'd rather people just unconditionally adore her and not ask any questions than she would have someone be able to, like, let's say like me, like, have a conversation, look her in the eye, and like if she starts screaming and yelling at me, I wouldn't take it. I'd just be like, no, I wouldn't cave. I wouldn't change up anything. And I think that's her ultimate goal. I don't deserve any critique, constructive criticism, or anything. I've had constructive criticism in my videos. But I've also deleted comments when they're just horrific. But there's a difference in acknowledging when something is actually viable to you and your point and who you are, and when it's not. But Zoe Laverne just takes all of it as it's not viable, even though it says you shouldn't date a 13-year-old, which I feel like is common sense. So now we get into her baby. Okay, this is the family channel pipeline section of the video. I think that she's following the Ace family model. Okay, now let's go, because like you can't say like family channel model necessarily, because if you think of somebody like Mike Stoffer, is it Nikki Philippi? I'm not good with names, like as far as like pronouncing them or what have you. But so they had scandals occur, and then they were able to they attempted to reconcile the differences they had with the opinions of their audiences that didn't like what happened with them. However, that like seems to have blown up in all of their faces, where their views went down. Like Stoffer deleted her channel. Like there's just they're in not a good position. And the Ace family still has many subscribers, lots of views, while Austin McBroom's having his own issues, lawsuits, and all those kinds of things. Those don't relate to like the audience arena, if you will, like the group of people that are interacting with him. So what I think what happened is Zoe Laverne looks kind of, when she was pregnant, she's definitely plotting mommy vlogger energy here. So she's like, okay, well, what's the model? Okay, so I'm looking at these ones, Mike Stoffer and Nikki Philippi, those like, even the what's it called, like 8 Passengers or whatever, like that had controversies and then seriously addressed them in formal ways, and then that just absolutely bad things happen. Then I'm looking at the Ace family over here, where Austin just smacks shit on Instagram Live and creates this like, and just like mad dogs the camera and just like makes this tough guy persona where he doesn't truly address anything, but he just hints that it's the fault of all the other people that criticized him. And then that way, and he's like, maybe even pleading to emotion regarding his kids. That's Zoe Laverne's model. And I think that's the association that she's having with success in regards to this new career that she's attempting to pursue as a mommy vlogger. She also has that, like I said, she's following that culture of selling photos. I think what she was doing was she was trying to take the Ace family formula and just make it faster. Because the Ace family's had exclusive content, they had apps, they had classes, a lot of these things have fallen through. They had products at some point, they had some like drink thing. I remember because I saw this video of like it turning out really badly. Catherine McBroom had a skincare line, blah, blah, blah. So I think what Zoe Laverne's doing was she was trying to like speed up that model by monetizing the child in a direct way immediately without having to put in the work of making video content, like long form video content. Because that's also not, I don't think she has the capacity to do that with like with like family content, because she can't be at the complete center of it. And also she will be criticized and has the danger of people calling authorities on her, whether justified or not. When there's a child involved, there is a potential for a higher reaction. So I think what she was thinking was kind of along the lines of just, this will work out. Like, people will just buy these, and then there's no like dynamic or hard work on her part to kind of keep everything clean. Like I said, I think what she just took the Ace Family formula and did it too fast. Even how she tried to address it, she just addressed it in a TikTok comment reaction video. Like, it was like, what, 30 seconds long? Like, that's that kind of like, I'm not going to address it, even though I arguably did something horribly wrong, and I'm going to completely deflect. And like Austin McBroom often does, just make up a completely new intention that had no one could have even imagined at the time that something was presented. For example, like with the basketball donations, he's like, oh, I'm going to donate all of this and blah, blah, blah. And then when he didn't donate all the money, he's like, well, the venue's expensive. Like, things like that. So that's why I think there needs to be a guideline because people talk about guidelines for like family vloggers on YouTube all the time. I think there needs to be a guideline of children on the internet in general. I think if you've passed a certain following, you should not be allowed to document your child, I think, before they're 13. Or whatever like the lowest age of a social media account is. I can't remember if it's 13 or 11 or whatever, but until they can create their own account on the right age. I wasn't allowed a single social media account until I was 13. Until I was the right age to do one, because that is the gauge that they're doing of where you can reason enough to produce these things. And I think that the child should not be the focal point of your content before they are that age. Before they can properly consent to being on camera. They cannot consent to the things Zoe Laverne is saying they can consent to. I mean that they can, like, they have the bodily autonomy to go away from the camera, things like that. Because when you're a baby, you're not about to get up and just run away from the camera. That doesn't really work. So I think there just needs to be, like, some set of guidelines for when you can, like, this is very based. I will say, like, this is, like, arguably a very unpopular opinion. This is my opinion, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, kids should not allowed to be the focal point of the content because there are no guidelines for it. And because of such guidelines not existing, I think that, and I think they need to exist for all platforms. I think there shouldn't be any monetized photo sharing. There shouldn't be any monetized, there should be no monetized content around a child like that. Like, it's one thing to like put your baby photo on Facebook, but you're not making money off that baby photo on Facebook. There is no power ploy and there's no dependency on the child as a breadwinner in this way. Because I think that's like the biggest problem is like these Ace Family videos and all these other videos are depending on their children for money. And now these kids have these huge responsibilities. I talked about this in my Charlie D'Amelio video. The turmoil that it puts these kids in is insane. Even Charlie being 16, I think it's hard, but I do think there is a point where you kind of have to start to let the guidelines a little loose. That's why I'm thinking like when a kid can make their own social media account, then they can kind of take it into their own hands a little bit. But I don't think there should be any monetization in this way, because then you get people like Zoe Laverne who are twisted, like horrible people who already take advantage of people that are younger than her, attempting to monetize a newborn baby. It's deplorable, actually. And her rhetoric around it is absolutely ridiculous. So much projection, avoidance, fallacies, appeal to emotion, especially she's crying all the time, straw man arguments, sometimes red herring arguments, because it's like this thing completely irrelevant. You're like, what are you talking about? So in conclusion, stan iNabber for clear skin, please. I've been doing it for years. Look at me. This isn't 10 pounds of makeup. I agree with iNabber too that Zoe Laverne needs to be addressed more. I don't think ignoring social media influencers that have audiences that are kids is going to work, because the kids don't have the comprehension of like what they're doing. So I don't think that they can just be ignored and then they'll lose their career on the internet. I think that's an unrealistic standard. I think these videos and this commentary needs to be put in place that when these kids have the potential to be growing out of these creators, they can see the problematic behavior and discourage others to participate with this creator. Same thing with Gabby Hanna. Like, I think her audience is too young to like just be like, oh, well, just don't watch her and then she'll lose her career. I think that's like a ludicrous way, like too much of like an in a perfect world idea of how this would work. And yeah, final note, just a note, Obviously, kids can't consent. May I repeat? Children cannot consent. Zoe, stop saying we. He was a child. He did not have consent to this. You consented on his behalf, with not only the age difference, but the power imbalance in place. And now you have put this child through turmoil. Because you can't take responsibility for anything, and you tried to put your situation on a child. Deplorable. You're deplorable. And now y'all have a good day. I don't know if I talked about Squish Gang, but they're there. Suggest any video content below. I'll make another video when I feel like it. I don't know. School, chokehold, blah, blah, blah. I've said this before. You guys have a good day. Bye.
You say you don't like capitalism, yet you exist! iPhone, bottom text, Venezuela, Ben Shapiro!